Thank you all for joining today. LSI and Invenio Company, we're absolutely thrilled to bring you this great webinar today, all about tax and revenue management. We have a lot of really good information for you. So my name is Alana Robbins. I am the marketing manager at LSI Consulting. Send this over to our on-hand industry experts. Together, this panel has many years of experience, more than I could even count. So we're really excited to have them all together today. Shyam, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alana. And welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to start off by introducing ourselves and our team. So my name is Shyam Jajodia. Many of you know me already. I'm a Executive Vice President at LSI, which is an Invenio company. And I'm the product owner for this product that we are bringing to the market, the product known as SAP Tax and Revenue Management. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Kelly Kitch if she's around, and if she's not, we can move on to Todd.
Oh no, I'm here. Hi,
oh,
Shyam.
Good. Kelly, thanks for joining.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Kitch, and I am a Customer Solution Director at SAP, which just means that I focus on solutions for our state and local government market. I've been at SAP now for 17 years, but prior to that, I was an SAP customer and made the decisions on software just like you are making in your future. And for an entire section of my career here at SAP, I helped introduce the SAP Tax and Revenue Management solution to the US customers. So, Shyam, back to you.
Okay, Todd, please. I think you're on mute, Todd.
Let me get off of mute. You can hear me much better when that happens. My name is Todd Gardner. I am partnering with LSI and Invenio Company in the launch of the property tax and tax administration, and you'll see from our discussion today, a little broader as well in the regulatory administration arena. My entire career has been as a public servant and as a consultant serving public sector entities. My first 20 years was at the state of Florida Department of Revenue and had the privilege of being part of our initial team that went live in 2001 with the SAP solution. And Leon will talk about that a little later in the presentation. And most recently have had the good fortune of working directly with SAP and for SAP as the global solution manager for our industry solution for public sector, specifically focusing on regulatory and tax administration. So very happy to be here with you today.
And hi, I'm Leon Bogalski, LSI Invenio's Chief Global Advisor for SLED. I have 27 years of public sector experience, over 25 of those, like Todd, working as a public sector employee for the state of Florida in several different high-level leadership positions, and then another 2 years supporting the public sector, supporting public sector entities with LSI Invenio. And I'm really excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to giving you a little bit more about Florida shortly. Antish.
Hi everyone, I'm Antish Ahuja. I work as a solution architect and SME at LSI and Invenio Company. Over the past 15 years, I've been involved in several public sector projects around the world, and I'm very happy to be part of this webinar with you today.
Excellent. Thank you for moving the slide, Alana. So I'd like to talk a little bit about LSI and Invenio. Most of you in the US have known LSI for the last 22 years as a great partner in the SAP's state and local market. And we continue to be that. In February, we merged with Invenio, which is an international company. And as a result now, we have over 1,200 employees, and we are 100% dedicated to public sector still. But we now have a global presence. So we are, truly global. We are in all of the different regions, Europe and the Middle East, United States with LSI, and of course, the Asia Pacific region. So with all of that, we are very happy to bring the tax and revenue management product to our customers in the state and local world in the US. And I want Kelly to talk a little bit about our partnership with SAP and also in the area of tax and revenue management.
So as many of you know, SAP has been providing public sector solutions for since about 1998. The state of Florida was our first tax and revenue customer. They went live in 2001, and from there the tax and revenue practice really has grown at SAP and the solutions. There's over 200 customers globally using the solutions, and I think it really goes beyond. In my mind, the solution, the great part about the solution is that it goes beyond just collecting tax and revenue. You can collect other revenues as well, and many of our customers are doing that. So they have one view of the constituent, so they can see tax revenues, they might see licensing revenues and enforcement revenues and that type of thing. So that has continued to grow. You know, we have another example, the state of Michigan in the United States not only collects their business taxes, but also does a lot of collections for the city of Detroit and takes care of those type of revenues for them. So it really is a growing solution and one that continues to be a focus at SAP. I got the joy of spending a lot of time going to FTAs and all of those as part of our rollout. So I think that's a good high-level overview, Shyam.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Next slide, please. So as you can see, you know, we are in a variety of markets in multiple countries, and what you'll see as we go forward is a lot of these countries, they are using SAP Tax and Revenue Management as a tax collection and tax processing software, mostly at the federal level in the smaller organizations like the Mauritius Tax Authority or in various, you know, smaller places like Fiji and Bahrain, but also at other levels in say, for example, India. Next slide, please. So as you know, we are not just an integrator, but we are also a value-added reseller. That means you can buy SAP software through us, and we also offer cloud in the form of either AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. We are certified in all those provisions. So essentially, we can give you a single contract that will give you both the software, the integration, and of course the cloud as well. We did win several awards in recent times, and in particular, one that I'm proud of is the SAP Pinnacle Award in 2020. And of course, we are the fastest growing companies list in the US. Next slide, please. So these are some of our customers. And I'll focus on the federal and central governments because a lot of those governments actually use tax and revenue management. You can see some of them are in the Middle East, but there is UK, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. So they use this for revenue collection, for tariffs and trade taxes, including customs duties. So there's a variety of applications, as you can imagine, for the SAP Tax and Revenue Management product. In the US, of course, we have several state and local governments, many county governments, as well as city governments, as well as now we have the state of Nevada. We also serve the state of Arkansas. So our state government customers are increasing. We have utilities in terms of transportation authorities. And then, of course, we have higher education as well. Next slide, please. So with this, I'm going to turn over to Todd, because Todd used to be, and many people know this, you know, with SAP managing this product for many, many years. And so, you know, he's kind of the expert in this field, and he can talk a little bit about it. Over to you, Todd.
Thank you, Shyam. You know, you may ask, why is this the area of focus for LSI and Venue Company? And very simply, it's what we do best. You saw from the slide that Shyam showed, the experience around the world exists with SAP in this area of our public sector industry solution. Those of you that are Olympic fans, we have found our lane, let's say. And so we really are, both as a customer and as an implementer and as someone working with SAP in this market, we are extremely excited about the capability and value that we're able to offer and really in a couple of very strategic ways. Here on the graph, you see in the center there on how we help tax administrations. Really, and we experience this personally at the Department of Revenue, and it may not seem like rocket science, but boy, was it valuable to us. And that is improving the experience and enabling the organization to truly have a 360-degree view of the entities that they're dealing with, the taxpayers, the constituents, and those related parties to those taxpayers who help them administrate their tax obligations themselves. Of course, everything is about providing value and efficiency. That's what my entire career has been about, both as a public servant. I am truly at this stage of my career, I am devoted to ensuring and helping governments run more efficiently. And many times that becomes a challenge for governments as they contemplate upgrading systems and modernizing their technology platform. And as sometimes very dramatic policy changes occur, have the ability to quickly adapt to those changes and be able to move along with technology, as you see here in the modernize and automate the integrated nature of what many of you have to do on a daily basis. And one of the things that in the last several years has really progressed mightily, and we're really excited about how machine learning and artificial intelligence, and particularly in some of our processes, robotic process administration, can really help organizations run more efficiently by moving some of the tasks to the machine and enabling human beings to concentrate on those extremely valuable, in many cases, touch point operations that you have going on, so that the citizen and your taxpayers are receiving that value. And of course, as a customer, I had to very often prove what we were doing and deliver business cases. And really at the bottom of our slide here that talks about the ability and the experience that we had with the customer on reducing the time of a particular task from 1 week to 1 hour. That is tremendous. And that is what we have the capacity to do with this solution and with the partnership that we have with LSI and Venue to bring the expertise not only in the industry, but the solution together to be able to deliver extraordinary value to you. That partnership with SAP is really also very important in that it allows us to help influence product direction. We're very fortunate to be in the position of a trusted advisor with SAP, and not just LSI, but our customers as a conduit for them to communicate directly with SAP to help provide key insights into how the solution should evolve. Next slide. And so really it starts for me with that, and I'm aware that some folks on the call may not be familiar with some of the terminology, but SAP's S/4HANA platform, which is the new generation of SAP's world-class and leading business application software platform, some refer to as an enterprise resource planning solution, because it does exactly that. It's intended to provide value across the enterprise in all of the key process areas. And for us then, laying on top of that S4 platform, SAP has delivered industry solutions, one of which is focused on the public sector. And we've seen a great deal of growth in this area globally and in North America and for our Latin American partners as well. And so LSI and Venue is very excited about bringing that industry solution from SAP to this market. And coupled with that, and on top of the S/4HANA platform and the industry solution geared towards public sector, I'll use the term accelerator. LSI and Venue has delivered a template, if you will, or accelerator on top of that, that really focuses on the unique needs of government organizations, and we'll look at a few use cases there. So in the middle of the chart here, you see those key functional aspects around case management, managing the entities that you're dealing with and being able to relate those entities to each other provides tremendous value, not only from an analytics perspective, but also in an education and a compliance perspective. We had a phrase in the Department of Revenue, one of our primary goals was to turn correctors into collectors. And that's exactly what this offering enables you to do, whether you're talking about tax administration or regulatory administration, where, as Kelly said, you're collecting permits and you're renewing licenses and you're ensuring that your local and state and federal policies are being adhered to properly. And really, that's where SAP shines. Next slide, please. And so while we'll be focusing on the demo today around in the local government area, the property tax use case, in our evaluation and working in this industry, we've identified a host of other use cases at various levels within state and local government and in provincial government as well for our friends north of the border. We're very happy to be able to offer these services that really cross all of these use cases. So from a statewide perspective, tax collection of all sorts, including permitting, child support enforcement, and really beyond that, benefit administration, et cetera, driver's license and regulatory administration across these government lanes. And while we will be focusing on the property tax in the demo today, as Alana said, we're very anxious to hear some of your suggestions about what you might like to see in the future and how we can serve and fulfill your particular need. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that Leon would be coming on and talking a little more specifically about that marquee customer that really kind of started it for us in the US, in the state of Florida. And so I'll let Leon talk a little bit about the experience there.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate that. And I'll get right into kind of the Florida perspective. As I mentioned during my intro, I spent 25 years as a government employee for the state of Florida, but more importantly, as it relates to today, the last almost 3 years of my career was as the executive director of the Florida Department of Revenue, where, as Todd and Kelly have mentioned, SAP has been utilized successfully for the last 20 years for both general tax administration and the child support enforcement program. But for the purposes of right now, I'll just focus on tax. So, you know, as we all like to have fun acronyms for the things that we do, the System for Unified Taxation, or SunTax, is what we refer to the SAP solution in Florida. And it was designed to integrate all facets of registration, return and revenue processing, fund accounting, fund distribution, accounts receivable, case management, reporting functions, all in one system that would have the flexibility and agility to meet the changing business needs and requirements of DOR customers. So as you can see, it's pretty all-encompassing. In the late 90s, just to give a little bit of background, Florida Department of Revenue relied on aging legacy systems that were segmented by tax types. They weren't easily modified. And then in 2001, DOR implemented corporate income tax as the first tax in an ERP environment. So then just to kind of give you some scale since then, you know, there are now 34 taxes associated with over 1.5 million accounts, supporting the annual collection of over $44 billion in taxes and fees, and processing over 9.3 million returns. So I'm not going to cover all the bullets on this slide because some of them are they're fairly self-explanatory, but I wanted to hit a couple, you know, specific benefits from the SAP solution. And one of those being the capability to handle multiple and complex revenue distributions to local jurisdictions. And again, just to try to give a scale on that, we're talking about performing more than 42,000 tax distributions in excess of $42 billion to various state and local governments that represent about over 800 local jurisdictions. And then the other thing is trying to bear in mind, not just from the a collection and distribution standpoint, but also the ability to measure, right? So you can measure productivity, time management, case management, cost effectiveness, all that good stuff. But, you know, along with that, like from my perspective a little bit, you know, from a management standpoint, you know, comes a better view and ability of managing your field staff. Department of Revenue has over 650 auditors in close to 30 offices around the state, as well as in 6 other states. You know, so as you can imagine, keeping track of what they were doing and how they were doing it was difficult and almost operating in little silos. And so now there was the better ability to share information, right? And, you know, you might be able to discover that one office is compromising more than others, and the reason is because maybe the training, you know, needed to be updated a little bit more in one particular office. There's a whole host of things that brings with it, just from a management standpoint as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back over to Todd, because he mentioned there's several different use cases. You know, we're just right now talking about one, but I'll let him dig into one of those use cases.
Thank you, Leon. So really, without further ado, we want to try to get the star of the show, Mr. Antish, and the solution up in front of you as quickly as possible. We do want to encourage you to submit your questions via the chat as we're going through. At the end of the demo, we'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. And as Alana said, if we don't have time to do that, then we'll certainly follow up, and we very much look forward to following up with you after the webinar. And don't forget to be thinking about potential topics for the next webinar. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Antish, and we're going to focus on 2 primary roles and areas today in the demo very quickly. One is around the cockpit, if you will, and the functionality for the caseworker and the internal government agent, and then how the organization can communicate 24/7 via a very robust online portal. So with that, Antish, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Todd. So we have 2 user journeys planned for today. We'll take a look at the citizen services on the portal. So how a citizen can, or a new homeowner can register on the portal effortlessly, update his own details, view his online bills, his online property tax bills, and make an online payment. And also, as part of the EServices, we'll see how we can request for an account statement and other requests that he can apply for, or the asking for an installment plan request or for a penalty waiver. So we'll see all these self-service facilities that is provided on the SAP portal. And what we'll also take a look at, which is right after this slide, or the tax officer and the caseworker framework. So we understand that the tax officer has a pretty difficult task to do on a day-to-day basis, where he needs to have access to all sorts of information, have very quick views, very quick KPIs, status, position of the taxpayer, simulate property tax calculation based on ever-changing rates. And we'll also take a look at the master data that SAP offers as standard. And finally, we'll take a look at the configuration capability of the system. So what happens when you change a tax rate? What is the effect on the billing, and how this is catered for? Okay, next slide, please. So we'll start with the demo, and we'll start with the caseworker series. Okay, so now just to explain you this scenario, we'll log in as a caseworker. So this is the login screen of the tax officer portal, which is an internal portal. Okay, and we will take a look at how the caseworker dashboard looks like, and what are the different functionalities that he has access to. So username and password for login, and now I am navigated directly to my tax officer dashboard. So very nice screen. And just to explain you the framework, so you have a different set of menus on top, okay, based on my authorization. And within each menu, you have a set of functionalities that are available. So here I see a very nice news feed that is connected to an online source and provides day-to-day news, and can also be used to publish internal policy changes or internal news to the county. I have an inbox with a number of work items, and all these different tiles, these represent the different functionalities that I have access to based on my authorizations. We also have a notification bell. So anytime a work item comes in, the officer gets notified by a pop-up. Just think of Microsoft Outlook when you're working and then you see it popping up. And that is pretty useful because at times the officer might have a high priority work item from a large taxpayer or maybe from his manager to attend to quickly. Okay, so we will kick things off to take a look at one of the very important apps provided by this solution, which is called the Business Partner Financial Overview. So this app provides a full 360 view of the taxpayer. So the officer needs to be able to see in one screen the account position of the taxpayer, any open balances, any correspondences issued, any installment plans, the compliance level, and this will help the officer in a wide variety of ways, especially when he needs to take a decision. For example, to approve a certificate request. So he needs to see, okay, is this taxpayer compliant enough for me to approve such request? Yeah. So we'll just click on the app, and on the next screen, we have to search for our taxpayer. So what you see on the top, this is the search fields, and below is the results list. So you have multiple search criteria, such as business partner number and some address fields. But what I really want to focus on is the enterprise search that S/4HANA gives. So the first field that you see, that's the enterprise search. And what's special about it is that you can search based on any taxpayer attribute. So here I've searched based on first and last name. I can use a combination of city and also street name. So it doesn't matter which field. So this is Fontana, the city, and part of the street named Green Street. It will still fetch me the taxpayer record. Next, I can try city and first name, or I could even try postcode or postcode and first name. So this just shows you the ease of access to the taxpayer record. And this is also possible, as I may add, because of S/4HANA's in-memory computing power. So it's able to screen through all these thousands and millions of records and find the appropriate result. Okay, so we'll finally go to this app. And this screen provides details across all functional areas. So whether it's compliance, payment, tax liabilities, correspondences, everything can be accessed from this screen itself. To get a quick overview of the taxpayer position, each tab will hold a different set of information, as you see below. And you have general information, account balances, okay, doubtful debts, what were the last updates to the account. And we can also quickly view the account status by clicking on the contract accounts tab. So I see that is registered for free tax accounts, and these are the open balances. We might also want to see a detailed view of the account because this is just showing a balance. So that is also possible through a single click. So this is useful in case the officer wants more drill down and understand the changes that happen on the account. So this is the full account statement for property tax. And we can do all sorts of updates and other transactions on this screen.
I think really one of the things, Antish, if I may, that we that is extremely valuable and for both the customer, and we've realized this with others, is the design follows kind of what I call a hub and spoke approach. So depending upon your role, you've got high-level summary information available in the hub, and then a very seamless navigational capability through the spokes to the more detailed transactional information and execution and action that can be taken based upon the business process being conducted.
Thank you, Todd. So, as I mentioned, all functional areas we can get a view, any write-offs done with the transaction amount and details, and also very interesting feature, as we'll see, the officer has access to all the correspondences issued to the taxpayer. So any tax notice, any demand letter, or any confirmation letter, that is all available through this screen, and we can actually drill down and open the actual letter issued to see the details. So the system stores these correspondences with a full audit trail, and this is useful especially when you have one of the complex letters like the dispute letters or any sort of certificate, or the taxpayer complaining that he never received the notice. So we have full audit trail available. So here's the property tax notice with the bill details. Also, if I may add, this solution is connected to the case management, where we can see any sort of dispute cases lodged by the taxpayer and any sorts of installment plan as well. So almost at the end of this first video, and what I tried to do was to give you a quick overview so that you see the user experience, the access to information, and how it sort of empowers the tax officer to see all this detail in quite a convenient way and in a short amount of time. Okay. Now in the next video, we will take a look at the property tax simulation app. So as we know, legislation and rates, these are things that always changes on a year-to-year basis. And the tax officer needs a tool to simulate and forecast the revenues and the property tax that can be collected. So we'll show you the forecasting tool that we have, and also keep in mind that in California, especially, there's one local body that comes up with jurisdictional changes on a year-to-year basis, and I think that would be applicable for every state. So the lodge a request, and the officer or the county has to give a reply and say, what would happen if we change X or Y rate, and what is the impact on the revenue for that year? Okay, so that is all very important. So now let's move on to see our tax objects. So the tax objects are linked to our properties, and I'll just open a random tax object. So the tax object would be linked with a billing party, and this could be the taxpayer himself, or it could be a mortgage company in case the mortgage company pays the property taxes on behalf of the taxpayer. So this is what we see on the partners screen. Objects that would be the secured or unsecured property. So here we have a parcel of land as the object, and under the conditions section, so these are our different property tax rates or property tax components. Okay, the officer can just click on simulate cash flow, and the cash flow is generated. So this looks really simple, but just keep in mind that in the background there are a few things happening. The system tries to understand the rates for these different periods, 2019, 2020, and so forth, consider the exemptions, and simulate and spit out the calculation in such a format. Okay, so this is where we see all the varying tax components and rates for as many years as we want. And the benefit is the officer can also maintain a rate and run the simulation just to see this effect, the impact. Now I have been running this at an individual parcel level, but this simulation tool can also be run across the enterprise for all parcels or for specific parcel types, because you might want to see what is the impact if you increase or decrease one of these property tax rates for, let's say, commercial properties. Okay. In the next step, I will now show you the master data that SAP stores. So I'm talking about the Parcel of Line, which is a standard master data object. And we'll see what kind of objects, attributes are stored there, and what other information it holds. So I'll navigate to the Manage Parcel app, input my parcel number, and let's see what we have.
And of course, just for you saw Antish navigated directly with the parcel number. Of course, as you saw in the previous section, the ability to navigate to this capability directly from the business partner overview is facilitated. So again, one of those spokes that comes off the hub, depending upon your need to evaluate the specific line items within an assessment, which is often the case. I know in tax administration, we want to know the credits, the principal, the interest, the charges, the fees. And when we talk about settlement and automating payment application processes, the ability to maintain that data at the granular level, but not junk up the works, is extremely valuable.
Thank you, Todd. That's useful input. So you see all these attributes, yeah? So these are the attributes that we receive from the assessment role that's produced by the assessor recorder office, all configurable. And what's interesting about it is that these attributes are stored on a time slice basis. I'll explain a bit about that later. So property type, assessed value, tax rate area, these are very common attributes. So if you can see on the right here, you would see that there are some sort of dates, yeah? So this is what I'm referring to, this time slice or effective date. So first set of attributes valid till end of 2019, same set of attributes valid for 2020 onwards with different rates, yeah? So this is really the flexibility of the system to store ever-changing rates without overwriting or without causing any regression. So the structure, standard structure is like this, that it can accommodate all these rates on a rolling basis. Okay, other information, the surface area of the plot itself can be stored in terms of meter square or other measurements. And you would have scenarios where the taxpayer would sold part of his plot, or even scenarios where the plot has been seized due to delinquency and is going for a tax sale, and that is subdivided and sold into multiple subplots. So all these details can actually be stored and provide a full history and division of the plots. We can also store different infrastructure details that is relevant for the assessment and calculation. So this is a common scenario in case you have special taxing districts, and some of these infrastructures are within proximity of that special taxing district. Okay, so end of the second video.
And what I'll insert here real quick, Antish, that effective dating component that Antish showed you, it is pervasive across the S/4HANA platform and the industry solution. And really, I can tell you, growing up in Florida, we may have 5 hurricanes that make landfall in a given year in Florida. And the governor would declare specific emergency provisions in certain areas. So the Department of Revenue would be charged with suspending severe collection enforcement action in those geographic regions, and for a particular time duration. The ability for us to do things like that in a matter of moments and not weeks and days was extremely valuable. And it's enabled by features like the effective dating component of the enterprise solution.
Thanks, Todd. So now in the last video of the Caseworker or Tax Officer series, I would like to show you a sneak peek into the configuration platform of S/4HANA. So what we will do, we will just simply update a tax rate, And after that, we will see the effect of how this rate change is updated in the parcel and how the system will automatically perform a billing for this supplemental amount. Okay, so I'll access my configuration screen where I see all the rates configured.
Now they're really getting a window into the extremely powerful configuration platform.
Yeah, so these rates are maintained on a time slice basis always. It's maintained by property type and by tax rate area. So that just shows you a bit of the flexibility in the rate maintenance. So I will just simply change a rate from 3% to 3.25%. So why I'm doing that, because I want to show you retroactive billing. The system can actually identify periods in the past where billing was done, identify the rate change, and perform corrections and supplemental postings. So once we save this, there's a process that automatically updates the parcels. So I'm now on the parcel screen. You see the rate updated to 3.25% from years 2020 onwards. And next, I will run a billing process for my tax object. So this is a process that's usually done in the background, but I'll run it in foreground just for explanation purpose. When the process is run, what happens? The system identifies that the rate change has affected two periods, tax period 2020 and tax period 2021. Okay, and as a result, it posts supplemental bills for both periods of $1,875 each. So 3% to 3.25, that's 0.25%, multiplied by the parcel value minus any exemptions, and that is just done seamlessly like this. Okay. So Todd, do you want to add anything on this, or we can proceed to the
I think we're good. Let's roll on. Antish,
okay,
we've got about 10 minutes left in order to leave a couple of minutes for questions. So we're rocking and rolling. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. So now I will show you the EServices part, and the persona is that of a new homeowner or a taxpayer logging in to his account for the first time. What he will do, he will just register by providing a few more details. Okay, so register for an online account, and after that we will take a look at videos where he can update his own details. He can make an online payment, request for an account statement, and finally request for an installment plan. So first time login, a password change is required. So this is the initial dashboard, which is limited because he hasn't registered. And just to explain you the roadmap, so this is actually the registration form. So the roadmap follows a wizard approach, step by step, requiring different information, an instructions page to begin with, an option to add notes and comments for any reviewing officer, an alert button that shows errors on the form, and a save button in case the user wants to save it and log out and come back at a later date to complete his application. So all forms on the portal follow a similar approach. So on the first step, some details are pre-filled, and the user will provide his address details. The state is fixed to California in this case, and based on California, the California counties are derived. So we'll just randomly select San Bernardino as a county. And in turn, the city pertaining to San Bernardino derived. We'll select a random one. The postcode also gets derived from the backend. So in the next step, the user will provide some sort of identification. That's always important to uniquely identify your taxpayer. So in this case, he will provide a social security number as ID with some other key details. What I would like to show to you is one interesting feature of this portal. So the portal itself is based on UI5 technology. What this means is it adapts automatically to any sort of handheld or mobile device. So here I'm just simulating the view of a mobile device. So this is how the screen would look like if I was accessing it on my iPhone or any other device. And there's no further setting to be done. Any device that gets automatically, the screen gets automatically adapted. So we'll provide the details here. So note that you can also mask. You have the option of masking the social security number and showing the last few digits. Provide a few more details such as date of birth, and in the next step we'll provide a mailing address. So multiple mailing addresses are possible, same as property address, PO box, and overseas address. So almost done. We just need to confirm that the information is true and submit the registration form. So the user is issued with a unique number, and he can also download an official acknowledgement letter. So other things such as email notification, SMS notification, that also happens seamlessly. So in the next video, we will take a look at the taxpayer dashboard itself. So here's assuming that the taxpayer has lodged a registration, it's been approved, and he has access to the full set of services. So this is what his dashboard would look like, with multiple tiles for payments, correspondences, and so forth. And one of the interesting, so there's also a quick view button. See, we want the taxpayer details to be up to date all the time. So just by clicking it, he can view his registration details. Okay, so in this video, before we proceed, the user will do, he will self-update his own details. So he might add a new bank account, he might link his bank account for direct debit to one of his tax accounts, he might update his mailing address, and finally we'll see how we can opt to receive all communication through the digital channel only. So you have a nice feature called Manage Profile. So here we see the tax accounts, and I will go to the payment accounts to add a new bank account. So add bank account, configured banks are pre-filled and can be selected. Provide account number details, holder, and some description. Kindly note that the bank routing number can also be included on this screen. So I now have two bank accounts defined. Next step, I will assign these bank accounts to my tax accounts. So for this tax type called transient occupancy, I will assign the first bank account. So what it means, whenever a bill is raised for this tax regime and that bill becomes due, the county will automatically debit this account to direct debit. So we do same thing for the property tax account. In the next step, we will update our address details. So probably the user might want to receive his contact and any sort of correspondence at a different residential address. So that is all available through self-service. And in the final step, our taxpayer will opt to receive all communication through the digital channel only, and opt for the paperless option. Okay, and that's it. So all details have been updated through this self-service app for the taxpayer.
That's great. You know, it's one thing to be able to have an intuitive, visually appealing user experience with easy navigation. In government operations, it's another thing to ensure that the data that's rendered in that application is accurate and real time and up to date. Nothing's worse than posting an amount due for a customer only to find out that that amount due did not appropriately consider an offsetting transaction or a credit or a payment that was recently received. So the taxpayer is interacting with inaccurate information. That is really one of the main value aspects of this solution, because of the real-time integration that exists with the S/4HANA solution and the portal that you're seeing right now.
Okay, so in this video, I will show you how our taxpayer Steve Williams can access his property tax notice online and also make an online payment. So all notices issued, statements, certificates issued by the tax department are uploaded to this correspondence section. So there are 5 letters available or 5 certificates available. So here I see the type of letter, the date issued, and an option to download it. So I'm downloading my property tax notice, and I see few details here: the parcel number, the property value, any sort of exemptions, and the breakdown of the property tax calculation leading to my final bill amount. So this is available persistently, and the taxpayer can access it at any point in time. So next, we will navigate to the payment obligations tile, and we understand that there are 3 bills due, and these are not only property tax bills, these pertain to other tax types. So these bills were issued for a specific period and with an amount. So we can also see a breakdown of the bill. So here I understand that my property tax bill has accrued additional late payment penalty due to not being settled on time. Full payment is possible as well as part payment. So in this case, we'll pay the principal amount with a part payment of $14,000. Almost done. So we'll proceed to the payment page, accept the conditions. So this is an internal payment page, but the real capability of this payment facility is to navigate to an external payment gateway. So it can be connected easily to any external payment gateway. So the default payment method is a card payment. So just fill in some card details and confirm the payment. Okay, almost there. We'll click on the pay button. So usually you would have a pop-up that asks you to confirm the transaction, and the transaction is confirmed with a payment reference number, and the receipt is emailed to the taxpayer.
Fantastic.
Okay, now let's assume that our taxpayer Steve has been a taxpayer for a period of time, paying his taxes and requesting all sorts of services from the tax department, reassessments, and so forth. And at this point in time, he wants to request an online account statement. So we have a dedicated request section for these kind of services.
And Tish, after we do the statement, I think we'll close so that we can get to a couple of the questions that we have in the chat. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
So it is as simple as just selecting the tax type for which you want the statement and whether you want it for the full history for a specific period of time. Click on generate, and on the next screen you'll have the statement displayed. So here we see all the transactions with the debits and credits, any payments made. So here's our payment of $14,000 that we just made a while ago. Now, for a taxpayer who has been dealing with the department for many years, this can prove to be quite lengthy to show on a screen. And so we've given the option to download it as PDF or to download this as under an Excel format. And that really helps the taxpayer for doing some sort of reconciliation.
That's great.
Okay, so yeah, over to you, Todd.
All right. Thank you, Antish. You know, a couple of the features that I think are really important. One of the things today, particularly in the environment that we're in with businesses suffering and kind of rebounding and the impact that that has had on governments, the ability to create payment arrangements with your constituents. One of the tiles that Antish had prepared was our installment plan or promise to pay functionality, and the ability for you to offer that online at your discretion as to when in a process occurs, and then ensure that the automation around the rules that you have in terms of frequency of payment, how long can a term be, what are the rates that are charged, and will those rates change, all managed for you via configuration. So Alana, if we could, you want to throw a couple of the questions out and we'll address.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you guys all so much. Antish, I am just absolutely blown away by the functionality and the ease of use. So let's see, we have a great question here. Is TRM in one SAP module or a combination of modules?
So TRM now, we're very pleased to announce, is really one centralized module within the SAP industry solution for public sector. So no longer do customers have to install both a CRM instance and an enterprise instance. All of the capability to facilitate a full end-to-end process administration are maintained within one single application.
Great. And what is the difference between TRM and PSCD? Do you have examples of PSCD and TRM integration?
Sure, absolutely. The state of Florida is a great one. State of Michigan is a great one. Some of the municipalities that are currently implementing the solution around the world. And if I boiled down the fundamental difference, public sector collections and disbursements is primarily associated with ensuring that governments can manage their funding allocations and their budget, as well as the high volumes that occur with many of our large government operations in terms of payment processing, charging, document generation, etc. TRM then sits alongside and augments that with things like very robust form processing. So you're delivered a template and a platform that allows you to integrate your forms and all of those processes that relate to receiving and confirming things from taxpayers, in addition to many of the features around the business partner themselves and how it integrates with that subledger, and I'll use that term, that PSCD represents. And essentially its job is to keep a lot of the granular transaction level information out of your GL. You don't need it there. You have a dedicated link from your general ledger to public sector collection and disbursements where you can very readily, and I recall one of our primary users at the Department of Revenue, when he realized that he could take a GL posting and drill all the way down to the source transaction posting and identify that we had an agent in an Orlando office that was writing off too much penalty, it was like, oh my goodness, you know. So that's really how the two are distinguished.
Great. All right, I think we have time for one more question. Is the portal an out-of-the-box part of the solution, or is it something that was built in cloud platform on top of the TRM module?
Well, I'll let maybe Antish or Sham tackle that. I'll tell you the primary, what you see in my opening, I talked about the accelerator that LSI in Venue is able to deliver on top of the industry solution, which sits on top of S4HANA. That's part of that accelerator. So the ability to come directly to you with a delivered portal that natively integrates with all the key back-end components is part of the solution offering.
Yeah, absolutely, Todd. The interface that you see is a Fiori interface. So the portal essentially is the Fiori Launchpad. And in that Fiori Launchpad, we have some custom applications as well as standard applications. So that's kind of how we are positioning this. There is no separate portal. It's the Fiori Launchpad that appears differently to different users.
Okay, maybe let's take one more. How was the tax rate changed without a transport?
Aha, very, very good catch by someone. Typically it would not be. So one, you would have a resource that has the authorization to change that rate, and that rate would be changed in a development system and then promoted through your landscape to production. And the reason for that is obvious. While the change itself may be simple, the impact that change, for example, changing a tax rate, is pervasive across the entire system. So you want to ensure that any unintended consequences of that simple configuration change are adequately addressed, and you do that in your landscape. This also brings out one of the most powerful components of the SAP S/4HANA solution, and that is its transport management module. I can speak from experience implementing other COTS solutions when it came time to promote new development to our production environment, and I had to route those changes through a proprietary cloud system that our vendor owned to get back down to our dev or QA system. That's a very cumbersome process. SAP delivers that full transport management capability from your sandbox, your dev, QA, pre-production, production.
Wow. All right. Well, I think today we're gonna wrap it up here as we're a little bit over time. But I do want to thank you all for attending today. Any of those questions that we didn't get to, we will absolutely be following up. And thank you to our panelists. Holy smokes, what an amazing team we have here. An amazing presentation by Antish and everyone else for their collaboration. I thank you. If you would like to reach out to us, please do. We have Nader Tirandazi's email right here, as well as his phone number, and as well as Vishal Mehta. So I think we're going to wrap it there, and thank you everyone for your time today.